Rob Perks, welcome back to the University of Huddersfield. So tell us a bit about oral history, how you discovered it and why you feel it's so important.
It's a long time since I was in Huddersfield originally. I did my undergraduate degree here in 1976 to 79, and I don't think then I would have envisaged that I'd be doing the sort of job I'm doing now at the British Library, looking after oral history. And in fact, in those days, almost certainly I'd never heard of oral history and didn't really know what it was. And there's still a few people that don't really understand what oral history is. In those days, the phrase wasn't generally well known. Nowadays it's everywhere, it's on books and television programs and so on. And I think most people now understand that it's to do with older people generally, not always, but older people talking about their experiences, sharing their memories of things. And it gives you the kind of history you can't really get from books and from documents. It's a different type of history. And it's an active type of history. So we as historians and researchers, we can ask lots of different people give us lots of different types of memories, maybe about the same thing, and then you can juxtapose all those different types of evidence with each other and with historical sources. So it's very vibrant, it's shifting, and I think you might expect me to say this, but I think it's more fun than documentary history, which is actually what I went on to do after I'd done my undergraduate degree here. I went on to do a PhD here. I was looking at newspapers and documents, and I was sitting in the Central Library one day looking at the Yorkshire Factory Times, and I thought there must be more to life than this, but also I thought, hang on, are any of these people that I'm reading about, are they still around? Are they still alive? And no one had suggested to me that they might be, or that I might go and try and find some. So I put an advert in the Huddersfield Examiner, and amazingly, people contacted me and said yes, they had worked at this particular textile firm I was interested in, and yes, they'd be quite happy to chat to me. So that's where my oral history started. I did a little bit, and then I guess the real breakthrough for me came when a job came up at Bradford Museums to set up an oral history programme there, and I guess from then on, I became an oral historian. Things have changed a lot in oral history since then. I think we've become aware that it's not just about gathering lots of evidence about the past, but it's also a more nuanced way of understanding the past, that actually it exposes a very interesting relationship with the past and the present. And I think we're much more interested now in how people construct their stories. Why do people remember the things they do in the order they do? What relevance do we have as interviewers, as historians, when we're asking people questions about their past and their memories? What do we bring to that?
Because that must be a real art in itself. If you're not careful as an interviewer, you could pick up an awful lot of irrelevancies. And then how do you, if you like, cut to the chase? How do you get to what you're looking for? How would you do that?
Well, what you've characterised is a bit of a journalist's approach to interviewing, I think, because I think that's what journalists are interested in. They're used to getting to the key story. As oral historians, some of those irrelevances that you mentioned are probably as interesting as the story itself. So we have become very much aware of what people don't say, the order in which they say it, the emphases and so on, and those little avenues that people go off on, which maybe seem irrelevant at the time and are sometimes frustrating. In analysis later, they often prove to be extremely interesting because they have a relevance which you haven't perhaps thought of at the time. So we have a much more holistic approach now to listening to people, to understanding the way they speak, and to listening to those silences and those repetitions, those absences, the cadences in the voice, the way they tell the story, the way they structure the story. Those things are as important, in fact, to us. So therefore, I think when we're thinking about interviewing and oral history interviewing, it is quite different from, you know, Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight or even your local newspaper reporter. It's a different approach that we take.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.